All right, hey everybody, welcome back to Unplayable episode 4. I'm DHaus in a hat here with Hatless Mike, Hatful J, and Hatatious Jim. How are you guys doing?
I had to show
Excellent.
off the new hair, so no hat for me.
Yeah, you threw me off. I watched the gameplay video. I was like, who is that? Oh, that's Mike.
We played those games and then we didn't have our cameras on because we were recording, and then he sent it to me to start editing together, and I saw his camera and his hair. I was like, what the heck? When did this happen?
That's so good.
Nah,
That's
it
basically
looks
the reaction
good.
I've gotten.
It looks good.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Well, we got big week, y'all. Big week. Lots of stuff to talk about. But first, we're gonna let old Stinky J take it away and tell us about his flesh and blood conquesting over the weekend. Tell us the tales.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make it really quick because I don't want to take away from the big stuff we're talking about today. But basically, for me this week, I don't know about you guys' gaming week, but for me, I played Flesh and Blood on Saturday. I went to a skirmish here in South Florida, 16 players, and a skirmish. If you don't know Flesh and Blood, it's kind of like it's one of the lower ranked tournaments, but it is a ranked tournament. It's bigger than just like a weekly armory or something. And it was Blitz. I played Lightning Lexi, basically kind of a pet deck for me that I've been playing for a long time in Blitz, and I ended up winning. It was crazy. I was not going there expecting to win. Blitz is such a swingy format. I played against 3 Reinars, which are like super high rolly. I played against 2 Prisms, which are not easy for Lexi to be able to beat. And then I also played against a Briar and a Dash, which pump out a ton of damage. And somehow I went 6-1 and ended up winning in the finals against my friend playing Prism. So it was a really exciting time for me. And all of my opponents were awesome. We all had just kind of, it was good camaraderie for sure. It was an enjoyable time, and it's like a casual tournament since it's not one of the higher ranked ones. So I got to see some other people playing like off meta decks like I was, and just having a good time. So it was fun. But that's enough Flesh and Blood.
Are you now the highest rated Flesh and Blood player on this stream?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm basically a pro at this point. So yeah.
Watch out, Nationals. He's coming for you.
Yeah. Do you have like a highlight of the event? Like what, like any crazy plays or any does anything stand out?
Yeah. I pretty much high rolled my way all the way through the top 8. I was the 4th seat at 3-1. I played against the 5th seat, which was a Rhinar. I won on turn 2. Just drew absolute gas. And then I played against another Rhinar, which was the number 2 seat, and then number 3 seat. He was higher than I was. He was another 3-1. That was a really close match. I think that he may have made a misplay, and then I think I actually played that game really well because on a crucial turn, like on the end turn, I was able to snuff out that he had the D react that deals 2 damage, and I decided to block with my tunic and lose that resource to stay at 3, so that if he played that, he wouldn't be able to kill me on my turn. And that kind of sealed the deal for me. That was cool. And then
Nice.
The last game was against Prism, and probably one of the best players down in South Florida. And he was like on the back foot the whole time. It was like 5 rounds of me doing like 15 to 20 damage a turn.
Goodness.
It was sick.
Lexi.
So like Lightning Lexi in particular works well into Prism, even though it's a hard matchup because I can gain action points without needing go again. And if you don't know how Prism works, when you attack her auras, your card basically loses go again, so it just ends your turn. But I'm able to gain action points without needing go again. So that helps me to like take out some of the auras with snapshots and then still get to continue my turn. So it was fun though. So
Congratulations.
Yeah,
thank you.
Nice.
I can be happy for you because it was Lexi. So
Ranger life.
All right. Anything else on that?
Nope. Did you guys do any gaming this weekend or week?
I did not. Well, okay. I played games with you, Jay, but I did one thing that I actually just remembered that I did that, David, you will be very interested in. I pre-ordered Star Wars Shatterpoint from my local game store.
Oh, buddy.
Wow.
I think listen, I will never play that game.
And
we're done.
Yeah.
I'm
Set
so
'em up,
hyped on Star
knock 'em
Wars right
down.
now. I'm just so hyped on Star Wars right now that I just like felt like I had to go and like buy it. So I'm gonna get it.
Okay.
It's
I'm gonna
sit
clip
on my
this for
shelf
when Mike's competing in the World
for
Championships.
It's gonna sit on my shelf for at least 3 years, and then maybe I'll take it out of the shrink wrap and
After it gets
build
canceled.
one miniature, get bored, and then 3 years later paint one miniature, get bored, and then that's gonna be my entire experience with that game.
Let's go.
Way to go, Mike.
I'm down.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Give me an inch, I'll take a mile. Okay, just that's all. Wow,
That's
what
awesome. What a turn of events.
I mean, what a dream crusher. I mean, literally, like. But I am proud of you, and
Thank you.
We'll talk at Gen Con. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening at Gen Con. I just keep thinking about
We're
all
not
the
gonna be able to
different
keep
things
up.
that we've talked about doing at Gen Con. Between Lorcana, Shatterpoint, we might play some old stanky Destiny, Smash, which I should comment on that for a second. But it's going to be a busy Gen Con, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I didn't play any games this week. I'm moving across states in like a couple weeks, so right now it's insane. Like all this stuff behind me has to get packed and on a moving truck in like a week. So it is it's insane. So gaming, the Lorcana stuff has been great to just follow and like look at my phone in between things, and I'd be like, okay. So yeah, no gaming in my world. But as a goodbye, I'm really excited about this. I texted this to you guys, but as a goodbye from Kentucky, Landon Dickens. I think all of you guys know Landon, but we always played Destiny together. He's like, we have to hang one more time. And I thought the greatest way to like say goodbye to him is like to just embrace our history with Star Wars Destiny. So there's a place in town called Villainous. It's actually like a pizza pub gaming place where you can rent tables to play games and eat pizza and get good drinks and all that. So we rented a couple tables, and he's getting all of our old Destiny guys back together for a night of like Destiny Smash format, and he's bringing all the half decks. And we're just gonna play for like several hours, like one last big hurrah.
Awesome.
And I am so excited. It's gonna be really fun. We're gonna definitely have to talk about some Destiny after that, but it'll be fun to bring that back for a little bit, roll some dice.
It sounds like a blast.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm jealous.
When I lived in Atlanta, I unpacked all of my old Destiny stuff, and I built decks with Just Awakenings. To teach one of my friends that plays Flesh and Blood and Keyforge with me, and he didn't like it one bit. So that crushed my dreams. Packed it back up, put it back in the garage. He doesn't like. He gets really tilted at random, like any amount of RNG, and so like dice. He's just like, I can't play a game with dice. I understand. I mean, he sucks at it, so it's fine.
Just roll threes. What the heck?
Easy.
You didn't tell him that to start?
I tried to tell him.
Yeah.
He didn't listen to me.
That's good.
All right. So what are we here for, guys? What are we here for?
Yeah. So let's recap. So again, this podcast Unplayable is about all the games that we love, not just one game. But right now, all you're going to hear about is Disney Lorcana. If you hate the idea of Lorcana, keep listening or hang up. I guess that's fine too. He can skip this one, but. We're going to talk about it because this week we finally got the rules. Game Trader Magazine, or GTM, or whatever it stands for, came out this past week. I was literally getting on an airplane when all the rules were dropping, and I was doing the thing where like hiding it from the flight attendants to try to like download all the pictures for the flight before they told me to turn it off. But we got the rules. So the rules basically, it kind of got like, there was like, hey, this is kind of how the game is played, and then the official rules got posted. This little like 2-page thing, and it really is literally like a page. Like there's like one page, and like this is how to play. So anyways, because that got posted, a lot of like cards in those pictures got spoiled, and then Ravensburger posted all these like how to play videos, which I haven't watched yet, but had a bunch of spoilers in them. So we got like 26 new cards or something crazy, and the rules, and it's just like, okay, everything's taken off, and all the content creators are making videos, including us. We made a gameplay video on YouTube that you guys can check out, but it is all out in the open. The rules are out there. So, does someone want to try to give the overview of the rules?
Mike's got it. I think he's the most familiar. He's played the most games.
I can try.
Just a very minor, like, you ain't gotta get into detail.
It's very simple, which is one thing that I actually really, really like about it. But essentially, the goal of the game is to acquire 20 lore, and once you get that, you win the game. The way that you get lore is that each of your characters has a lore value, and so the icons down the right side of a Lorcana character card have these little diamond looking things, and you quest with them. So you exert them or turn them sideways or whatever, and you gain that much lore, equal to the number of icons it has on it. So if it has 2, you gain 2 lore. You do that 10 times, you win the game. So throughout the game, you're obviously need to play these characters. So you have resources that you can use to pay for the cost of those characters. The way that you acquire those resources is just from the cards in your hand. You can play almost any of them face down as a resource, as long as they have the little swirly symbol in the top left of the card. You can turn it into an ink, which are your resources, and then you can use that ink to play your cards. And that's like really like the high level, like very simple, like this is how this game works. There's one other thing that you can do. Well, there are more other things that you can do depending on what the card is, but built into the game engine itself, there's one other thing that you can do with your characters, which is you can challenge your opponent's characters. And you can only challenge your opponent's characters if they're exerted or turned sideways. On the turn that you play a character, you can't do anything with them, but on the next turn, you can exert it to quest, or you can exert it to challenge one of your opponent's exerted characters, and it leads to some really interesting gameplay, I think, now that we've actually played the game. And I'm excited to dive in more. Did that explain the rules well enough, you guys think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. And
did I miss anything?
Well, I've used this. I'm gonna make it even shorter, because I used this with Jim and I worked together. We were talking to a coworker who loves Disney, and she doesn't play games. But I told her, and I've said this about Keyforge too, but I basically said it's like a Disney version of Mario Kart in a card game.
All right.
You're racing and playing dirty.
Racing. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to slow down the other people while you're trying to beat them. Like, that's it. Like,
for sure.
That's my one sentence pitch. And she was like, "All right, I'm in." Like, it was like,
didn't you get that analogy from Zach Armstrong? Didn't he say
no?
Didn't he call Keyforge?
He stole that from me. Thank you very much.
We need to run the footage back on that one.
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to. That thief of a. Yeah. Yes. So
I guess before we get into like the cards and stuff specifically, maybe you guys can give your thoughts on like what you think of the system. If it like, because we had so many expectations and anticipation for
how many things were we wrong about?
Yeah. What were we wrong about? What surprised you, or like what may be like some people feel like they might be underimpressed with what they had for expectations of the game, stuff like that. I don't know if you want to talk about that, David.
Yeah, I think I love, like, similar to Mike, I like how simple it is, because a game should be simple to make it easier for people to learn. Otherwise, if it's too complicated and it requires too much mental gymnastics to even figure out the base system, people will check out. Bye, Jay. But he's like, I hate this, so I'm out. So I like it. I think the question for me is going to be like, is the depth I like a simple system with like depth of strategy. So
Yeah.
I guess that's where my question is like, is there enough decision trees to make it interesting with both like deck building, with like moments in the game? My gut is there is enough, even like looking at some of the cards, and we have what, like 35 cards of a 200 card pool or something like that. I mean, we haven't even seen that many. So I'm already seeing some good things. I think what surprised me that I didn't expect was the idea that you can't challenge a character that isn't exerted, that isn't sideways.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect that. I did expect the like exerting to quest, challenge, whatever. But I didn't expect that. Oh, you could just you don't want to lose this guy. You can just keep him ready, keep him fine.
What do you think about that rule? What do you like it, or do you think it's?
I think I do think I like it. At first, I wasn't sure. I do think I like it now because I think that's where the decision trees are going to start to happen, where you're like, oh, I got this character that can quest for 2, but then they're vulnerable, and I think that's where it's like, do I save this to like challenge them, or do I go into the quest now and leave them vulnerable to like their little chump challengers, I guess, or whatever. So I think I like it. I mentioned this on Twitter. I was interacting with I don't know his real name, Marco Victory. He's a Flesh and Blood player, but also he like had been posting all these like deck or game theory ideas about Disney Lorcana for like weeks and months at a time, and he was pretty accurate, honestly. But we were talking about just this idea of, is it going to be possible for you to flood the board with just like enough lore that you just don't do anything and you don't worry about what they're doing until you get enough to like quest for 20 and win the game? I don't think it is. I think there's clearly ways like Let It Go as a card to like remove some characters and stuff like that, where I don't think that's going to be a thing. But it does make me wonder if there's going to be more like board wipe type action, so you can't just play solitaire on your side and flood the board and make it completely uninteractive.
In response
I feel
to
like
that,
you'd lose really quickly if you did that. Like,
yeah, because then the other person's just building up a board and also gaining lore as they build up the board because they're not losing creatures. My other response to that would be, I guarantee you there's going to be a keyword that a creature has that they can attack ready creature other characters. At least I would expect that to be a thing. Maybe it's rare, but I would not be surprised if that was a keyword that shows up eventually.
Yeah, we just saw a card. I thought we had seen all the like keywords, but Hercules came out with Bodyguard, which basically protects this character mana play exerted, and opposing character who challenges one of your characters must choose one with Bodyguard. And then the other one is just like the keyword support on, I don't know how to say the name. It's like the little chicken from Moana.
Hey. Never seen Moana?
Oh yeah, I have. I just don't remember how to say it.
Not a real fan.
What?
So not a real fan.
Okay.
What I would say about the ability to not attack non-exerted characters is I actually kind of like it, not only because of the decision space that exists, where it makes it kind of feel maybe more Hearthstone-y or Magic or Legends of Runeterra, where you have to decide if it's worth attacking or exerting that character, and because you might lose those characters on your before you get to your next turn. But also it lets you play. I don't like in Keyforge or other games where I play a creature down and I never get to use it. It's like always immediately destroyed because it's a powerful creature. I like that I can put it down and it's not as easy to immediately destroy it unless you have a spell that targets it. So I'm kind of a fan of it for both the decision space, but also because I like being able to actually use the characters that I play in my games. So that's kind of my tidbit on it.
Yeah.
Also, I was totally right when as soon as the quest keyword came out, I said that it's going to be like Keyforge where you reap, except you gain a variable amount of lore. I was totally right. So,
Yep.
Mike, what do you think?
Jim, what about you, Jim?
Or Jim?
Yeah, I want to hear what Jim thinks.
Sure. I do like the simplicity of it. I think it's a very easy thing if you're coming into a card game for the first time, which I think a lot of people will be just because they think Disney is cool. It's something that I feel like I could explain quickly and they could pick it up very quickly as well. I mean, the whole just you have 7 cards in your hand, you have some sort of resource system, and then do what you can from there. So I really like that part as far as bringing new players in. I think I'm a little bit concerned about the no reactions when you're going, similar to Keyforge. Like, just there are long turns sometimes, especially as like for new players in particular with Keyforge, it was tough because they would just sit there for like 5 minutes staring at their hand and then trying to figure out how to make it all work. And so with no play back and forth, it's kind of, you might just be sitting there for a while, especially if there's just 2 new people trying to figure it out. So I think that's honestly my only concern about what I've seen so far. Sure, the gameplay ideas of like, are you going to run out of cards too quickly if there's no card draw, or does battling even matter or challenging even matter? Those are just questions as far as like, we'll see once we get the full card pool. But the game itself, I just think it's so simple and so easy to teach somebody that they could be like, oh yeah, I'd give that a shot. Sure. Without feeling too overwhelmed. Like trying to teach a new card game player Flesh and Blood is just not going to go well.
Yeah.
This one seems much more like approachable.
Definitely more accessible. I agree with pretty much everything that you just said. I do hope at some point they explore the design space of being able to do stuff on your opponent's turn, because I think that's one thing that you can do in a physical card game that you really can't do in a digital card game. That makes it more interesting. Like as of now, like Disney Lorcana could be 100% a digital card game. And it's taking advantage of the sort of physical medium in other ways, like, physical organized play and the collectability of like things that you own. But I think gameplay wise, I like when physical card games sort of do things that work better physically. Like if you've ever played Magic Arena, like it's way slower and like way more annoying to play than in person because of all the like the weird timing windows that you have to like click through. And in a physical game, you just kind of know based on body language and other sort of like social cues, like what is going on when you need to interrupt your opponent, stuff like that. So I do hope that they explore that. I like that the game. Dave, for the audio listeners, David is shaking his head. He hates this idea.
Aggressively shaking his head.
I will give you the chance to respond.
Yeah. Let me know when the defense rests, and let me have my moment.
Okay. Well, why don't you respond now, and then I'll continue my thought afterwards.
I hate instant windows, reaction windows. I think
if they're too complicated, I agree with you.
I feel like it just opens up a game to rules lawyering, and that just turns me off from games. Like when I'm like, if I end up in a tournament or a setting where someone's going to try to be like, oh well, you had your half a second of a window to respond and you didn't respond, so I moved on and you missed your chance. Like that kind of stuff is like, sometimes there'd be a little bit of that when I played X-Wing, and like I hated it. Sometimes that's why I hated playing in some of like the top level stuff, because guys would try to like find ways to be like, oh well, you didn't declare, so we moved on, you missed your window, and it just, I'm like, I'd rather just play my thing, you play your thing, and I try to outthink you, not outmaneuver you, or maybe that's the wrong word, but that's the thing where I'm like, it makes me feel gross.
I think like it sounds like what you really don't like is that opens up the opportunity for people to like be jerks, right?
Yes.
Like, and I completely agree with that. Like, if they can find a way to implement, you get to do something on your opponent's turn sometimes without opening the game up to that, I think that would be the best way to do it. I don't know if that's possible. Maybe it's like, you can only play those types of cards to react to very specific things that happen, and maybe that is like a way to do it. I mean, even still, like if your opponent's moving so fast that like they move past that quote unquote window, and then you don't have the opportunity to like do the thing, they moved on to the next action, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I don't get to do my thing. I definitely see that point.
It also rewards players who study the rules and know the rules better regardless of how skilled they are. It just rewards someone who knows the system better and is able to read through 50-page rule book of 1,000 different points of ways that you can interact with instants. Like Flesh and Blood, I love playing it, but it's got so many instant windows, and it's super in depth in terms of like when a card is played, when a card is attacking, when an ability triggers, or when an ability resolves. It's all just one card. It's can be way too much at times, and
Yeah.
I totally agree that you need to keep it simple. I still enjoy playing Flesh and Blood, but that would probably be one of the weaker points for me. Although I really do like the interactions that they have with instants and how you're able to go back and forth and like create a stack and then it just resolves. Like that kind of stuff is cool to me. It's just the complicated nature of how it works.
Yeah,
Even
that-
just the word the stack, gives me nausea.
It makes you lurch.
I'm a computer scientist. I program. I deal with stacks and queues all the time.
Nerd.
I don't even know how to read, so I also agree that that's my least favorite part about Flesh and Blood. And Magic honestly is a little bit easier, like to understand and figure out like what happens when. Flesh and Blood, there's so many different timing windows because there's like so many different. Magic is probably the same way. There's like all kinds of phases and timing windows and stuff that like I don't care about at all. I don't want to have to know them. I don't want to have to learn them. So if the choice is between a system like this where there's no interaction on my opponent's turn and a system like Flesh and Blood where I have to know 50 different ones, I'll take this system.
Yeah.
I actually think this game probably won't have that because they've already announced that there is no end phase. That like once you're finished with your turn, it's the other person's turn. There isn't this like ready step or there's nothing at the end of the turn before it switches over. So they've almost canceled those windows already. So unless, like you all were saying, it's like a direct response of like you can stop a challenge, or like I think it would have to be very specific if they end up going that design route. But as far as like what I've seen so far, it doesn't seem like that's in the plan.
I also don't think it's possible to like so like say they create a card that's like when one of your creatures is challenged, you can play this on your opponent's turn to target another creature and it costs like 4 mana. You can't do that because you ready your mana at the start of your turn. Well, I guess you know what, you could save it.
I'm sorry. What's this mana you speak of?
Oh, I'm sorry. Ink.
Is that like a food that you eat in
Oh,
your house?
ink.
Or-
It's
That's
bread. It's holy bread, actually, mana. Literally, in the Spanish. But
There's no
yeah,
magic language in this game.
I just contradicted myself. So they could totally actually do that because then you would have, but it would also telegraph what you're doing, possibly. I guess maybe it would be an interesting decision.
Like
I
play.
feel like you're playing ping pong with yourself
system.
right now.
Well, he's laying out why it's an
Yeah.
interesting thing to do in a game.
This is why I think this is one thing we loved about Star Wars Destiny is it's like I do a thing, and then it's your turn to do a thing.
That was
And then
not
I
the Star
do
Ware Destiny that I played. Star Wars Destiny that I played was I do a thing, and then I do a thing, and then I do a thing, and then maybe
Okay.
you get to do a thing if
Says
you're
the
not
solo Sabine player. Okay, the guy who literally took a single thing. Yeah, we get it, Mike. But most Destiny was not played that way. I mean, there was ambush where you could like stack, like you could stack. I said stack. You could do multiple actions, but. I think that was like a way to get around the instant windows. It's like, okay, I'm going to do my thing, and then you have a chance to respond to what I rolled, or you could play
the turn
something
sequences
else.
are much shorter because it's literally just doing
Right.
one thing. So you're not as bored on your opponent's turn because it only takes 10 seconds.
Yeah, I did like that you had to stay mentally engaged with what's happening. Like you couldn't just, like, oh, you're taking your turn. I'm going to grab some food. I'll come back or whatever. So
Yeah, and like you said, it allows you to have interaction on basically the same kind of feeling of having interaction on your opponent's turn without it being on your opponent's turn and needing instant windows. So, like, you're totally right. It gives you that same feeling, and I think that's why it's a good system, for sure.
There is one card that I think kind of addresses this as well. I don't mind to read it off if that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Read it off.
So it's the amethyst or the purple version of Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
I can share that real quick if that's easier. Let's see here.
I can read it off. It's
I got it.
4 cost, 3 power, 4 defense. It has an ability called Animate Broom. You pay 1 less to play broom characters, and it also has an ability called Ceaseless Worker. Whenever one of your broom characters is banished in a challenge, you may return that card to your hand. And then he also produces two lore when he is
I see
exerted
what
for
you're
questing.
saying.
Strong
Yeah,
card.
so the instant window there is the idea of you have a permanent out, this thing happened, therefore you can respond to it. So it seems like they're going to do it based off of what's already,
in play.
yeah, just posted on there, or already just like on a card that's sitting in front of you, this thing happened, therefore I can respond to it. But it's not like I'm holding back information in my hand that nobody can see. It would be very
More like
public knowledge
a
of like, I
passive
should have been able
ability.
to do this thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's interesting because I think that is what people actually want when they say they want interaction in between turns, is like the ability to surprise your opponent with something. I think it's a little bit I don't know, controversial is right, but like I don't know if that's necessarily like a good or a bad thing. Like at least an interesting play where you have to anticipate what your opponent's going to do before they do it, or you know you can, there's more things for you to play around, which I mean it does lead to some interesting play, but ultimately I don't know whether or not that's like good or bad for a game.
Yeah, Cheshire Cat right next to Mickey Mouse is the same. It has an ability to lose something when this character is challenged and banished. Vanish the challenging character.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah. I think Cruella de Vil is like basically exactly the same, except you bounce it instead of banish it. So I think they'll have sort of things like that are technically reactions, but maybe not secret reactions from hand.
Definitely.
I think it's an interesting design space after having thought about it, though. The act of saving mana or ink, I mean, in terms of like saving it for your opponent's turn. Like, do I want to play this five cost character, or do I want to play a 3 cost, save a couple mana to be able to potentially play ink? You know, in the videos I called it ink almost every time except for like once, and now that you've pointed out calling it mana, it's like all I ever want to do now.
I'm just gonna get a little piece of bread and start munching on it every time you say mana.
Yeah, I am. That's a great idea. From now on, I'm bringing a loaf of bread to this recording, and I'm just gonna eat every time.
Okay, I have one other sort of comment to make that I was going to make before we got off on this tangent,
right?
Which is that to me, like the core game rules of Lorcana takes things that I like from a lot of different card games and leaves the things that I don't, which I appreciate. So Keyforge is like the best example of a game that I think is really cool, but ultimately I don't love certain things about it that kind of ruin the experience for me. And I think those two things are like the lack of a resource system and the fact that you can only play one of your houses each turn. So it leads to scenarios where you have like 2/3 of the stuff that you own on the board or in your hand that you can't do with at any given time. So you have a bunch of stuff on the board that you're not going to do anything with this turn, or maybe even next turn, or maybe the turn after that. So it just sits there. And the fact that there's no resource system means that you can just like vomit out your entire hand every single turn if you sort of get lucky and draw into the right stuff. So Lorcana, by contrast, doesn't really allow for that to happen, and for boards to like spiral out to like ridiculous board states as easily, at least because you're starting with 0 resources. You can only play a certain number of cards each turn, and you can use all of your cards on all of your turns. So I mean, in playing the game, I really like it. So Jay, I think you agree, and David and Jim, I'm excited to see if you guys like it or not.
I know I'm hoping to play some games tonight. I don't know if anyone's free, but I want to actually jam. I would like to talk about, unless you guys have something else you want to say, I want to talk about maybe some of the nuances of gameplay, or like maybe what you learned through actually playing cards that maybe stuck out to you. And I'll kick us off, and I don't know if you guys have stuff you want to add, but just watching the few gameplay videos there are on YouTube and watching you guys play, there was a card that I just want to point out. It's just a blue sapphire. We're gonna learn the actual name. Sapphire is what it's called. Blue Maleficent. 4 cost with flourish. That flourish is the name of like that ring around the number, which we should also get into. I said this earlier in our text thread, but
no one knew what that was by the way. At least I didn't
Yeah.
see anyone call what that was going to indicate. And
I
yeah,
was hoping for a different resource system, actually. I've seen this, sort of put a card from your hand face down as a resource in a ton of games. The game that the company that I work for is currently working on has a resource system like that. It's fairly common. It's existed for a long time. I was hoping for a resource system where you have a separate deck of like ink, and you sort of like flip over a new one each turn, and depending on what color it was, sort of like allow you to play cards of that same color. I thought that would have been really cool, but
it does seem like it does make it where, because it comes face down, it's like, why would you ever play with just one color? There's I don't see any.
There's no.
I don't see any.
Yeah, unless cards in the pool for some reason. Yeah, you're right, because
we haven't seen a single instance of like tribal type of.
I don't even know how they would sort of push that.
But like all your Ruby cards get +1, lore or something. I don't know. But right now it's like you'd be insane not to run multiple colors.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that they do introduce some, and maybe they're keeping that space open, but I hope they create, because I think that's where deck building gets really interesting when you're like, ooh, do I, stick with red hero and red hero only,
Mm-hmm.
and you try to find the openings, but
sorry, I didn't mean to tangent. You were talking about Sapphire Maleficent before we ended.
Yeah, no, it's good because again, I think the deck building. The point I was going to make, and I texted this in your gameplay video. At one point, you had a hand of 5 cards. 4 of your cards did not have flourish, so you had to play like Tinkerbell or something down as a resource. It's like you could get yourself in a situation if you don't deck build correctly, where you're like, oh shoot, I put too many of these non-flourish cards in, and now I'm reaping the consequences.
Imagine your opening turn, you draw all non-flourish, and you can't even play a mana on your opening turn.
Yeah.
A what?
Rough.
Ink.
A what?
Where's your red? Where's your red?
So don't they have a mulligan system though, where you can put cards from your opening hand down to the bottom? So it shouldn't happen, but theoretically could.
Yeah. Unlikely, but possible.
Yeah.
What do you think about the mulligan system?
I love it. This is my favorite kind of mulligan.
Explain it.
Okay, so you draw your hand of 7. You put face down, technically on the bottom of your deck, but I don't think it really matters. But you put away the cards that you don't want from that opening hand, and then you draw cards to replace it.
And then you shuffle.
Has a very similar mulligan.
And then you shuffle.
Yeah, and then you shuffle. Yeah, it's a very generous mulligan. Maybe it leads to some sort of like combo decks being extra good because it's more consistent to draw into your combos, but it's a 60 card deck, and I don't know, 7 cards is a lot though.
But those cards go away quickly because you're also putting them as resources, not just playing them.
Very true.
Yeah.
So
I think they just have to be very careful with designing low cost cards that could potentially combo well with each other. I think that's where it can get scary of those extreme circumstances. But as long as those are more saved for the higher tier versions of them, then it should be fine. But that's just kind of the dangerous game that it's playing right now.
Yeah, I feel like they can never print a card that says if this card's in your opening hand, do X.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Blue Maleficent?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. So this is a vanilla card, meaning it doesn't have any text. It's just a 4 cost that has flourish. 3. What do they call it?
It's
not attack.
No, is it power? I know the one on the right is willpower.
Strength.
Strength and willpower. I think that's
strength
what it is.
and willpower. Is that it? Okay, so 3 strength, 4 willpower.
We should probably start calling them that.
It and then it has 2 pips, 2 lore. And it at first it's like, okay, this doesn't seem like a big deal, but in your game, I think it seemed like not only was it questing for 2, which is most of the stuff we've seen is questing for 1. So it already felt like a little bit above value, but that 4 willpower seemed like that was such a big jump that anytime it's like, I want to trade 1 for 1, but if I really want to take care of this, it seems like I have to do at least 2 creatures into this, but do I really want to sacrifice 2 creatures for 1? And it just I didn't count up how much Lord actually got from Mike in that first gameplay video, but it seemed to account for like half of it, and it just was quietly doing work. And I was wondering about that willpower value, like where you turn that corner toward like, wow, this is actually like that jump from like 3 to 4 just feels a little bit more significant than any of the other
I think
jumps.
that was a little bit down to the decks that we were playing and the sort of the draw in that particular game. Like in other colors, I think that's maybe a little bit easier to deal with. And I also will point out that Mickey, the one that we talked about earlier, is just a better version of that card because it has the same stats and also abilities. So I think like it is a good stat line, and you know, compared to a lot of the cards that we've seen, like a lot of cards that we've seen have 3 strength. So 4 willpower is probably generally pretty good. Like that probably is like the break point between like a decent high costed card and like what you can, I guess, do about it as you know, like if you're drawing into your 2 and 3 cost stuff. So it did feel really good though. Like having 2 lore, I think is the best part of that card too. Like, you know, it's gaining double the amount of like the 3 cost stuff that I was playing. It only costed 1 more ink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. A lot of, and like in our videos, like it was more of just trying to get the game played and see how the game feels and the cadence and nuances of the game. So my deck was probably kind of trash. I just kind of threw it together to try and make like a Hades deck work, and I wasn't thinking about breakpoints or like stats necessarily. So, but I do agree. Like you can look at all the different colors and some of the characters that they've spoiled so far, and you can see like the same stat lines amongst several characters. Like Flounder and Stitch are both 1 cost 2/2s with 1 lore pip, and Mickey or Minnie Mouse or a couple of
Minnie
them.
Mouse and Donald Duck, I think, are the same.
Right. So I think there will be breakpoints as we play that you recognize as like I'm at 3 ink, and this is the kind of hero or stat lines that'll be probably popping up around this time and stuff like that. So
I'm sure the mathematicians are hard at work right now trying to establish the baseline.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking of my hey deck that is going to get those breakpoints perfect. So.
Exactly. I actually think
I knew you would be, Jim.
I think in my games, the 2 games that we recorded, I severely underestimated Tinkerbell, not because of which her ability is pretty good.
Wait,
if you're
read it off.
So she's a 3 power and she's a flourish. I kept playing her as ink, but she's a 2 strength and 4 willpower, and 4 willpower at a 3 cost doesn't seem like there's a lot of those. And there's a lot of like 3/2s that exist. Like I think Donald Duck, right? So you would be able to trade, well, not trade, but you would be able to challenge, kill, or defeat Donald Duck, and not get defeated yourself. So that's kind of probably I looked at her ability and not her stats, and that's why I kind of underestimated her, I think.
Yeah, which also her ability to battle plans exert to draw a card and then choose and discard a card. To me, that feels significant. I mentioned this in our text thread earlier, but I want to see more draw card abilities in the game.
I think this one's less good than you think, just because you're not netting a card. Like you can cycle a card. But...
No, I just think I'm really excited about the game. So hear this as not a downer, but like is just the fact that on most turns it seems like you're playing a card in your inkwell and a card on board, and so that 7-card hand gets depleted pretty quickly. Where it just seems like I don't want to end up hoping to top deck every turn the answer I need to respond or whatever. So it just feels like that. Those cards like what's the Magic Mirror,
Magic Mirror, and Beast Mirror too.
Yeah, so Magic Mirror is like 2 cost in Amethyst. Purple. Yeah. And it's a rare. I think I just noticed that. That's interesting. So as a speak ability, you exert and pay 4 to draw a card. At first, I was like, "Wow, 4 to draw a card? That seems like insanely high costed." But in the few games that I've been watching, it's been important. Granted, again, this is all we don't know the majority of the card pool, so all of these takes might be really cold in a month. But it just was like, man, there's these one card hands that people are playing with. I'm like,
I have a thought about that, and I think it comes down to the card pool that we have access to right now, because it feels a lot like playing limited. And in limited, in a lot of games, you sort of get to the point where you're sort of top decking because you're sort of just trading back and forth with your opponent at a fairly even rate until you're sort of both out of stuff, and whoever has like the most sort of exciting, flashy stuff at the end kind of takes it. So I suspect that once we have a full card pool, like decks will become a lot more efficient. They'll work towards a specific strategy that they want to sort of achieve as like a win condition, and I think that will alleviate some of those fears.
That's a good assessment. I like that.
Yeah, I don't want the game to come down to top decking. And I'm wondering, so like just based on the math of the game, like I think after so many turns you get down to so few cards. I'm wondering if they expect the game to last only a few rounds or if it's going to be a longer paced game. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the turn 4 win looks like. I mean, like the game that we played where Mulan sort of hit the field with I had a bunch of other units already on the board. Like that card seems like a sort of aggro sort of finisher card, if you will. Like if you build your deck around just really cheap stuff and you're just like, dropping all of the cards that you have, like you only need to play 5 total lore if that's like if that's like the top end of your curve. So you can potentially like, make up for the fact that it's sort of, you're allowed to play 1 ink per turn. If your deck is built to not require you to play 1 ink per turn, you can use those additional 2 cards that you drew in your opening hand to actually, sort of gain more board advantage. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what ends up happening. Definitely excited to sort of see more once more cards come out and play with like real decks. I think it's going to feel a lot different.
There's one card I wanted to highlight as sort of like maybe this will give us a clue into like more card design, but the red Ruby Aladdin card. Cost 7 with Flourish, 5 Strength, 5 Willpower, 2 Lore Pips, Shift 5, and then Daring Exploit. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you gain 2 Lore, and each opponent loses 2 Lore. And that's the only case of like taking lore away or like, making your opponent lose that we've seen. And that made me really happy to see, because I don't want it to be like, oh, you got up to 19 and oh, well, your Olaf wins. Versus like, oh no, I can actually, there might be some deck building cards where you can actually work towards, because I'm even thinking like, gosh, you give the Pocket Watch, White Rabbit's Pocket Watch, cost 3, but Exert cost 1. Chosen character gains Rush this turn, which they can challenge the turn they're played. So if you're able to combine that with Aladdin, and you can pop this guy down, give him Rush. I mean, there's some combos there that I'm like, okay, this could potentially like pop off and both maybe like a little bit of a catch up mechanic, I guess.
Yeah. I'm glad that the way that it's sort of introduced is on a card that your opponent has the ability to react to. Like if it were a card that was just like, it costs 5 and it says like you gain 2 lore, your opponent loses 2 lore, that's a lot less interesting to me. Like you have to play this onto the field. They have to have something that they've exerted so that you can sort of, challenge it. There's a lot of interaction here. So I do really like that about Aladdin specifically.
I agree, and he's only a 5/5, where 7 costs that stat line is not super high. So, like, if we're both at 7 ink, then I can probably also play a big guy that would be able to trade with Aladdin and not get defeated. So yeah, like you said, there's a lot of interaction there. That's interesting.
Mhm.
What
Any other?
color? What color is your favorite so far?
Ooh, I like red so far. Red and blue.
Red is very aggro, and Mickey Mouse is OP. Red Mickey Mouse. Also,
Yeah.
Probably intentional.
I
He's real
just
strong.
noticed that like the other red heroes or red characters that have evasive don't have lore pips. Mickey is the only one
those
that's
are yeah. So they're
They're
not
hidden.
like the whole card wasn't spoiled or
oh
whatever.
okay.
So yeah, they're
So
hiding.
there's a chance they have some, but
Yeah.
it would be interesting if they also
They definitely
didn't.
have some.
They have to, right? Then what would be the
Yeah.
point of evasive?
Right.
Yeah, and at 5 cost Goofy and 6 cost Tigger, like
I bet they each have 2.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's gonna
I
be
don't know.
tough. Evasive is gonna be real good.
Yeah, you're gonna need some answers to evasive for sure.
I think every deck like if you don't have any answer to evasive and you go up against anyone that has evasive, then you like there's nothing you can do. You just lose. So
It's very similar to Magic. Like if you don't have an answer to flying creatures, like
right.
you're
Mhm.
you're probably not gonna have a good time.
Yep. My color would definitely be the blue sapphire stuff. It seems the most interesting. It's to build around. I mean, you got stuff like Maurice, 6 cost, 2/7 with 2 pips. As the whenever this player quests, you may pay 2 less for the next item you play this turn, and then it works whenever you play an item, you may draw a card. Definitely some cool stuff, but
Mhm.
and even some of the early stuff we saw with like Robin Hood and some other stuff, I think is looks really cool. But I think I'm most interested, at least currently, I think blue. But we need some more green stuff, man.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, we only have 6 total green cards.
Yeah, not very
Yeah.
many. And they're all pretty
Not a
interesting.
No, not even 6. We have 5
Is there
because
5?
Cruella de Vil is
Oh yeah, Cruella's there
in there
twice.
twice.
As in
Green's
2 of them
really
don't have
interesting.
the like revealed how much lore they get you.
Yeah.
Right.
After playing the game, Cheshire Cat looks pretty bonkers. It's a 3
Mhm.
cost with a flourish. It's a 0 strength, 3 willpower card with 2 lore pips, and when this character is challenged and banished, banish the challenging character. Like 3 cost for 2 lore already like feels pretty good, and you definitely give your opponent a hard time in dealing with it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim, what color you like so far?
I'll go amber, the yellow color or yellow orange.
Same. Probably for
I
the
think
same
hey, it just
reason.
seems fun. I'm serious about that one with the buff the strength of one of your cards. You can kind of do a little mixed bag of taking care of their board while pushing your own objective. It's kind of just it seems like a pretty standard like you can kind of do it all bag of tricks.
Yep.
nice.
Yep. I'm there with you. Amber seems like the combo oriented
Mhm.
color, which I'm all about that. So I'm excited to explore that more. I haven't gotten to play my big Stitch yet, which I want to, but we'll get there. So what do you think, real quick, about the song mechanic, where you get to play it for free based on a condition?
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. That's super interesting. So
It's kind of a new concept in card games, I think, like being able to play something for free based on a character you have, maybe.
yeah.
I don't
So
know.
to provide more context, it's an action card, but it has like an additional ability basically that says like a character with cost X or more can exert to sing this song, quote unquote song for free. Please don't sing the song at the table if I'm across.
Mike will quit this game if you sing a song during his game.
I mean,
I'm just telling you guys.
you do you, but please don't. I like it. I think it's a really interesting mechanic. It's another place where they've inserted like an interesting decision of like, do I exert a card to play this for free, or do I use that card for something else and use my ink to play that card? And the cards that they've introduced are pretty crazy. I think.
Like Let It Go is a 5 cost normally that a 5 cost character can sing for free if you exert them, and you put the character, any chosen character, into that player's inkwell face down and exerted. So it could be one of yours if you wanted to, or it could be one of your opponents. Probably going to be one of your opponents in most cases, but it's not out of the question to be able to self ramp if you needed to. It's and I feel like, yeah, you're exerting a 5 cost, but a lot of the time, or not a lot of times, but if you can do it in such a way that like it's a 5 cost that you're playing for in a passive ability and not really playing for challenging or lore pips, then this gets infinitely better because you can just exhaust a 5 cost that you weren't going to use effectively anyway and still have their passive online and get rid of any one of your opponent's characters. It could be an 8 cost, a 9 cost character. That's kind of really good, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I like the song mechanic. I think it's unique. Yeah, it will be because that 5 cost. I'm like, man, I'm spending 5 resources to put a 5 cost. Like I'm thinking like Mulan, like at 5, like seems like you don't want to exert a Mulan to do this, but maybe in some certain circumstances it's worth it. It's that risk reward. But I think it's cool. I think it's a cool way to like incorporate the theme into this game. But don't sing to Mike.
All right, so lots of news this week for Lorcana. Was there anything else you guys wanted to touch on about the game so far?
The only thing I saw this week that I was like, okay, let's speed this up a bit, is that they are still testing a draft format.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I was like,
you got to have that tested way before you have this game printed.
That was a little surprising to me that they're still testing it. I'm like, that should have been part of the like game's release,
the core design of the game, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Which we've talked about on here. So that was a little bit like, come on, guys. Like, but maybe they're still testing it to still release at launch, and
maybe
fine.
It's like maybe they know that the way they set up packs works. They're just trying to decide some minor decisions on like how many colors you can have in or something along those lines.
It does seem like you just do 40 card decks and you don't limit the amount of
colors.
There's
no color restriction.
Yeah.
Is that interesting though? I feel like it leads to the only decision that you're making then is just what's the best card in this pack.
Well, it's your cost curve too. It can't just be.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's a lot less interesting than like having an additional restriction, because the additional restrictions are what sort of like lead to, the requirement that you need to make some creative deck building decisions.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think I agree. And like Magic, the way they do it is like, because of the mana system for Magic, you can't go into all of the different colors unless you're being like really risky, I guess. But I don't know how you do that here, since all of the ink is non-color restrictive. It'll be interesting to see what they come up with. I mean, even for like just sealed, like if you open 6 packs and you can have any colors you want, then you just play all the best cards in your pool, as long as you just mana curve it and you're good. Or make sure you don't have a bunch of non-flourish cards.
Yeah, someone's going to come up with like the ideal curve and say, okay, your sealed deck needs to have X1 cost cards, X2 cost cards, X3 cost cards, and so on. And you're just going to sit there and pick the
best
5
ones
best
for those
1 cost cards, the 5 best 2 cost cards, and whatever. And that's your whole. That's the whole experience.
What if the rule was you could have any amount of colors in your deck, but you can't have more than 2 colors on the table at one time? So then you have to think about like what you play.
I see where your head's at, but I think that adds complexity that they're not going to want for a game like this.
Yeah, Mike also mentioned, because we were talking about it a little bit, that like you can draft whatever colors you want, but you can only play ink. Like you can only play 2 different colors, and then the other colors you draft can only be used as ink. But I think that also introduces a little bit of like complexity that
I wonder,
is unnecessary.
yeah, like you could do that, I guess, if you like, if you either had cards that were specifically only ink, like I'm imagining they force you to use opaque card sleeves, and you can only pick 2 colors, but the rest of the cards you can fill out the rest of your deck with cards that are backwards, and those cards can only be used as ink and nothing else. Like, that's a way that they could do it. I don't know if I think it's great, but in theory,
yeah, no, that's terrible. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they decide, because I haven't thought of anything. I haven't thought about it a lot, but I haven't thought of anything that would make sense yet. I mean, what you really need to know is the ratio of packs, like how many of each color are going to be in there, and how many cards you're going to be able to draft. Maybe they let you have 3 colors. I mean, that would probably help. I don't know.
If you're opening 3 packs for a draft, that's how many cards? Like,
and there's 6 colors.
It's 12 cards, right?
12 cards in a pack? 12 cards in a pack. It's 36 total cards.
Wow.
That's not a
You're
lot.
only getting 36 cards for the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 6 colors, and so there's 2 color of each pack has 2 cards of each color. Like, how do you even make that work in a draft?
Yeah, I don't know.
This is why they're still testing. All right. Well, maybe we can dig into that in a future episode. Right now, I think we've got enough other stuff to talk about this game to keep us busy. But do you guys want to talk about anything else, or do you want to wrap this thing up?
I think we can wrap it up.
Yeah,
I am interested in seeing how shift works, and what the value trade is there. But there's not much for us to talk about because we don't know.
Yeah. But the thing that we do need to remember is that this next weekend is Gamma, where they're going to be showcasing the game for game store owners, and they're doing lots of demos. So I'm expecting that any rules that are unclear today by the next time we record,
well, there's going to be
we'll actually have those answers.
A ton of cards spoiled, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I am very tempted to go print out the spoilers and start getting some proxy decks and forcing Jim to play with me for at least while I'm still here in town. But
do it.
But I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, do I want to put all the effort in printing this stuff off at Office Depot or whatever, and then they
TTS,
and then we get a bunch of. I know I'll play. I'll definitely play TTS, but I think I would like to just feel it in my hand and do it. I did that with Keyforge. I did that with lots of different games, and I enjoyed it. So we'll see.
All right.
Okay. That's it. That's all. That's all the Unplayable stuff. Be sure to check out the YouTube channel. And
join the Discord.
Join Discord.
Join the Discord.
We're building, or we're trying to build a fun community around playing games in a fun way, not taking things too seriously. If you're too sweaty,
instant windows in that Discord. No reaction windows. You just take your turn in our Discord, okay? But yeah, join the Discord. Be sure to like and subscribe. That helps us get some more visibility out there. And for the people who have been commenting and helping us spread the word, we very deeply appreciate it. And that's it for us this week. We'll see you next time on Unplayable.
End of podcast. Bye.
Peace.
Bye.